Treehouse Masters has inspired many dreams of building a lodge that reaches to the sky. Two couples living in Minnesota's heartland did more than dream. They built the Long Prairie Treehouse in Stargazer Sky Cabin that offer guests an uplifting experience. In both cases, one spouse had to convince the other that this wasn't just a crazy fantasy.
We had 3 different areas of land that, I dreamt about building a tree house. And my husband kept trying to talk me out of it. And then I started buying stuff for the inside of it, knowing that someday I would have a tree house. And it took a lot of years to finally have it come true.
So she brought this wood stove home one day, and what's that for? Well, it's for the treehouse.
The home the Lavoies purchased in 1999 only had 2 bedrooms, and Joyce insisted they needed a guest house so their kids had a place to sleep when they visited. She had read all the books by treehouse master Peter Nelson and had a pretty good idea how she wanted it designed. Neighbors Ron and Nancy Leisman, a carpenter and an artist, drew up plans and helped them frame it up. With the help of friends, daughters, and boyfriends, the treehouse took about 2 years to complete.
This is Richard and I putting on the siding. Isn't this great? This woman up here just with that drill.
She didn't do that.
Oh, yes, she did.
Trust me.
Building the outhouse. We had this whole group that we called the Flush of Crappers that came out to help us tip the toilet up. This is one of the cards that I got from my daughter that she said, "Dream big."
The treehouse is built on 3 red oaks.
The deal is, if you ever built a deer stand between 2 trees, and them trees wobble in the wind, and it breaks the board. So I had to cobble up a deal. I made some beams, some white oak beams there, doubled up 2x12s, and then they'll slide on these steel brackets that I made, so it'll give a little bit.
Ceiling's quite a deal. It was all that kind of open. We didn't know how to finish it off and stuff, and so I got that galvanized tin there and stuff. But
You get your little place to eat and a little place to drink your bottle of wine, place to relax, place to sleep. It has deck around 2/3 of it, and so there's room for chairs and tables and just to sit out. And the best thing about sitting up that high, especially in the summertime out here, is that the mosquitoes don't go up that high.
A friend donated old windows, but in hindsight, the Lavoies say they should have spent money on new ones.
The story I tell my people who come to visit is the windows never leak when the sun shines. They leak a little when it rains a little. And they leak a lot when it rains a lot.
The house is lit with lanterns and candles as the only electricity comes from an extension cord running from their house.
I tell people it may charge your phone, but don't expect more than that.
Originally, the guest house was only intended for family and friends, until it was featured in the Minneapolis Tribune.
Could somebody called up, can they stay? Well, I suppose, we're not fussy. And then Joyce evolved into her bed and breakfast, and would bring them something to eat, and a bottle of wine and a t-shirt and the whole deal.
The Lavoies rent the treehouse to guests on a limited basis. The only marketing is by word of mouth and media stories, including a feature on CBS. A few years ago, the Lavoies heard about another couple who had built a tree-high cabin in Uppsala.
So we were over that one day and stopped in to meet them, and we liked them. They had quite the deal.
We really are happy to have other people join kind of the unconventional things in life.
We're just so nice, and we got to be friends with them and have shared campfires. And
we were just over there a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
Like Joyce, Jill had to convince her spouse to build on high.
We're sitting in front of our timber frame cottage. It started out as my music studio, and also a guest space.
Then, you know, we were watching Treehouse Masters and we were like, oh, this is so cool. It'd be fun to do that. But Joan is a little more commonsensical than I am, so she said that would probably be stupid.
Well, yeah, you have to understand, we had done a lot of renovation projects, clearing of the land. I was done. And when she wanted to build a treehouse, I was really cold to the idea. And
so I thought, you know, in my desperation, I said, maybe we could, you know, rent it out. She goes, oh, if you think we could rent it out, let's rent out what we've got and see what happens. And then I thought, pop goes my dream, but we put it on Airbnb, and within hours we had pings happening. We went into St. Cloud, and I was driving on the way home. We got 3 reservations, and so it was just really a hit.
but on the basis of that success, then we decided to go ahead and with building a Stargazer. We are both Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter fans, and we decided on the Lord of the Rings theme mostly for her.
Jill and Joan employed their artistic talents in designing while building the Stargazer Sky Cabin. With the help of contractors, it took about 18 months to complete. Some unusual features tested their patience, like the floor.
We went through all kinds of things with it and freaked out many times, and many times Joan said, do we have to have a cool floor? Could we just have a floor?
Does everything have to be cool?
The floor is covered with epoxy that had to be stirred constantly in small quantities to prevent air bubbles.
Basically, for every 15 minutes of stir, we had 2 minutes of pour, and we had a whole floor to do it. It took us all day. And I said to Jill at some point, I'm feeling a little mom and pa kettleish here, you know, just sitting around here stirring the epoxy, you know. But
After a Google search for ideas, they designed a dumbwaiter system on a garage door opener track installed vertically so guests don't have to haul luggage up the steep stairs. Although the Stargazer isn't actually built on trees, it has an outdoor feel with 53 windows and tree branches reaching to the high ceilings. The whimsical decor features Jill stenciling and quotes from the trilogy throughout. The theme extends to the gardens below, where chainsaw artist Mark Kurtz turned an odd-shaped stump into a hobbit creature.
Smug is from Lord of the Rings, of course, and The Hobbit. But this is not Smog, which was the case for Tolkien invention. This is Smug, Smog's twin sister, who doesn't have all of the horrible testosterone issues that makes her brother like roast people alive. And she also is not a hoarder. She just wants the flowers to grow up around her and be peaceful.
With fold-down beds, the Stargazer sleeps 6, and the cabin 5. Both are solar-powered and made with recycled materials, such as wood from a house that was about to be demolished. Chickens are part of the experience, and every guest receives a half-dozen eggs when they arrive.
We have different color eggs. We have chickens that lay blue and green eggs. And then I write a little chicken story in with each thing of eggs, which sometimes one of the chickens, you know, thinks she's found true romance with Leo Leghorn down the road. And
yeah, so it's called, the collection is called the Chicken Chronicles.
Both the Stargazer and the Long Prairie Treehouse give guests an above-ground experience away from city lights.
And they just kind of want to come and see the stars again and get some R&R, build a bonfire, lay in a hammock, kick back, get in the hot tub.
A great place to relax, quiet, which you can't find very often anymore. And I love sharing it with others.